Hey, I think we're live, guys.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, let's not even let's not even bother explaining all of the let's not do the Uber driver thing and explain all the ins and outs of what went wrong and stuff. But we sorted it and also learnt how to sort it in future as well. So we're all good. How is everyone? Apologies for that before, and we're just gonna do a very lightning fast version of what we were planning to do originally.
Yeah, good stuff. We got two people watching. We need to share this.
I will share the link. I will share the link. Have you
What are
posted
we
it?
gonna... Fantastic. We got two real diehards. These are the three people now. These will be the people that will be like, I was in that terrible stream with Tangent and Seven when they cocked everything up.
I'm gonna delete this. So yeah, I've got good charts. We've got good ideas. We've
You
got.
shared this. I can't even work out how to share this. I think it's because I haven't.
Oh, actually, no. You know what? I can actually find the link now. I don't need it from you. I can just get it directly from YouTube. Oh, well, nope, that's Kathy Wood. Sorry, guys. We're just like.
Yes, he would.
So I'm gonna go on your channel. I'm gonna get the link. I'm gonna share it on X.
I've got it. You tell you what, I've got it now. I've got my brain in gear. I've got the link. So if you do the talking, then we can.
Perfect. Okay. So some of the things that are massive, my USA quants, they tell me that the USA and China have reached some kind of trade deal. That's absolutely massive. It just happened, I think, a couple of hours ago that it got sorted out. That's massive. Richard's tweeting like a beast, and over 50% of his tweets are ones that I like. I personally am doing a thing where every time he tweets, because you know how people speculate on what he could mean, because lots of his stuff is indirect, and he's using metaphors and telling stories and talking about things that aren't crypto, and people are trying to sort of read into it. I just hit the Grok button. That does an explanation, and then I ask Grok, is this bullish or bearish for Pulsechain? If it's bullish, if it's anything more bullish than neutral in Grok's assessment, I screen cap what is said, and then I retweet Richard's post with that. So I think that it's because it doesn't really matter, right? Like, I'm bullish on Pulsechain regardless, but I think it's interesting to show people the potential positive framing of some of these things that they think might be irrelevant or unrelated or those sorts of things. So what were the main things? It's the China US deal. Oh, obviously the price is actually going up. So we've got green candles. We've got good news in the macro. We've got Richard like hyperactive with some stuff that sounds great in my interpretation, and obviously sevens as well. And
calling the bottom.
Sorry?
Calling the bottom.
Yeah. There was that one that sounded like he was calling the bottom. But I'm talking in general categories now. Was there anything else that was like majorly insane news level or sentiment level? Oh, for some of the communities and sub communities, the sentiment's never been worse. Like, that looks like that has bottomed out as well. It's like turbo level. What you would typically expect to see at the Pico bottom is exactly how people are behaving right now. So that's interesting. Obviously, with a slight amount of relief because the daily candle today is green. So that's about it. Really, I'm really bullish. It's one of those things where I have personally, I don't know about you guys, but I have personally gone back to looking at what cars I want to buy, what planes I want to buy, what houses I want to buy. That's the vibe I'm on, where I'm like, because you don't want to have to be dealing with those sorts of decision-making processes and paperwork and stuff once you've actually got the money. You want to have the phone numbers and the contacts and you want to have your down payment and stuff like that. So, and I know other people that I'm not even joking, by the way. I know other people that are doing the same, where they're starting to put deposits down on cars. I hear that in the US, sometimes there can be long waiting periods or competition over, especially high-end cars. So they're already actually putting their down payments down as well. Obviously, there's a level of hope there. It's not guaranteed, but you can always get a deposit back. Whereas if later, if you need that deposit, like if you need that production slot, it's too late, right? So it's better to just have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So let's get some shots.
It reflects a confidence level, doesn't it? It's funny you should say that, because I've just done the same. I've just put in my order for the new Land Rover Defender 110, which is the car that everyone wants. And
yeah, I hear they are very popular as well, and that sometimes it's hard to get a slot.
Yeah, all the celebs and footballers have got them. They everyone wants them, and
exactly.
So yeah.
So I'm gonna
put a hex sticker on mine.
100%. One of the things I was, one sec. So don't show. One of the things I was told is, one of the things I was going to do on one of the cars is, because I was going to get this car. It was like this really nice blue, and I was going to put Pulsechain logos in the centers of the wheel hubs. I'd already worked out that would look pretty tight.
Yeah, man, that would be good.
Window or screen, window.
Does Pulsechain have to get to a certain price before you do that, or would you just go straight for it before SAC price?
It's not. Yeah, it's not really related to the price of anything. It's just, but in terms of like wanting to stick crypto related logos all over the car, I think I would want the prices to be, yeah. So buying the car, not so much. Putting the actual crypto logos on it, somewhat. So let's take a look at this. Is the but by the way, I was like very uncertain about the color that I wanted. So it was like I was only going to do it if the car ended up being blue.
I agree, by the way. I think that should be the rule. I think you know, Richard's got to earn that. I'm not putting Pulsechain on my car until we're over 3.0.
Absolutely.
I think I see the opportunity, and I'd much rather make a 40x and a 10x. So I'm happy buying Pulsechain now, or a 400x instead of a 100x. But I'm not putting branding on.
Yeah, I want it to be a flex. I don't want people to be laughing at me while I drive down the street, Richard. So anyway, let's take a look at this. Speaking of things that would make Richard happy.
You don't want the XRP boys. You don't want the XRP boys. Somebody's uncle is in the XRP winding the window down and taking the piss out of you.
Or get keyed by a fellow community member who's not happy about the price or something. So that's a joke, by the way. So this is the channel on Pulse this is the Pulse price. I think we were actually looking at it on the daily. That'll make it a little bit cleaner for you guys. So this is an ascending channel that I talked about on last week. We were down towards the bottom of this channel, and I said this is kind of a bit of a do or die moment where if we drop out of the bottom of this channel, then we lose the uptrend, right? This is the uptrend of the channel. You don't want to lose the bottom of the channel. And it bounced, and then it actually went all the way back down again. And I was like, dude, if this channel drops out, I'm just going to be so disappointed, because you guys know I am nauseous permanently under half SAC. So like literally every waking hour, and some of the times when I'm sleeping, depending on what I'm dreaming on, I'm just violently nauseous at the price of this asset being below half SAC. And so the idea that we were even going to lose this uptrend, I was like, SMH. So
again, it's that sentiment dividing line, because I remember when we beat the SEC the first time round, guys, and Crypto Coffee happened to be doing a live stream at the same time, and the prices of PLS and PLSX went up to 50% of SAC, and everyone was so happy. And so 50% of SAC is not only the point where Tangent stops feeling like vomiting, but it's also the point where most Texicans lose their minds with euphoria. And so you can imagine what it's going to be like, guys, when we get to 3 zeros and a 1 for PLS and PLSX, let alone 3 zeros and a 2, or 3 zeros and a 3, as we have been in this cycle, as I said earlier today. The first rule is, if we go to Banana Zone or altcoin season, the first rule is all the cryptos have to go back to the prices they've been so far in this bull market. And that's for PLS is a 10x right now. That's
I saw someone say on Twitter, they were like, you guys don't need an alt season, you need a break even season, and then you need an alt season. It's like, and the idea there is people are underwater. Like, people need to get back to break even before they can even start to talk about gains. Now, that's not every asset and every participant, but you know what I mean in terms of generalities.
Yeah.
But look, there's a lot of buys flooding in on this thing. There's people are clipping in. There's lots of like multi-$1,000 buys, people clipping in 3K, just like
Go on.
1K,
I'll
another
up
buy
you.
for 3K just came in, 3.5 grand. So people are clipping in. Obviously, the chart's bullish. We're green. We've been green 3 days in a row. We bounced off the bottom of the channel and we are heading up. So that's looking really good. We've got 4 higher lows and 3 or 4 higher highs, depending on how you count them. So
that does look really neat, buddy, and you can really see that. And you don't have to be a TA guy to be able to understand that. That does look. You can see exactly what you're saying. You know,
and this is a daily chart, by the way.
It looks bullish.
These are daily candles, so this is not an insignificant amount of time that we've been in this uptrend now. So that goes all the way back to middle of March. So that's good. That's Pulse up. I think it's up. Look, up
Let's stay there a bit. Let me
day.
ask a couple of noddy questions. So this would be presumably, you can see that chart there. Presumably this is the time to buy because we can anticipate it's probably going to go up to the top of that channel. And I think you said last week that takes us to 4 zeros and a 4-5 or something like that. Tell us where that takes us.
Yeah, I mean, if someone was coming in new and looking at this sort of stuff, then the way I would see it is this is the best opportunity to buy you could ever get in terms of how the chart looks, because it's like everything's so far down, but it's showing strength off the bottom. So you've got some level of confidence that it's not just continuing to die, but you're also getting hella low prices. So it's the Nike tick chart. And but obviously there's always risk involved that you don't know exactly what's going to happen. It could just literally tomorrow, it could just go mooning a 20x, or it could break out of the bottom of the channel. But if we're talking about this from a risk reward perspective, which we always do because it's all we've got, I think that is looking really good. By the way, something else we keep an eye on is the Ivan on Tech line, where he said, while the price of Pulse rather is below the previous all-time low, that is a horrible look because the all-time low becomes resistance. So you're actually fighting just to get above the lows, and we are well above that line now. So that I've just drawn that in on with orange there. That was the all-time. We're well above that now. Effectively, that was also kind of where that bounce that we did off the bottom of the channel was also that line, which is quite dramatic, right? Because if we had broken, dude, so obviously some will say we got saved by the market, right? Because the whole market pumped. So you could say, well, this wasn't just this asset, this was the whole market, but I don't care. Regardless of the reason, whether it was market or whatever, we have saved the day. We have bounced off the all-time lows and we've bounced off the bottom of the channel. So it's great news.
Yeah, and also when we're up like 10% in a day, you can't just give the market all the credit. I think it shows that we have got some things going for us, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely so. You know those quants that I always talk about? They had said to me that they were very, very, very concerned if ETH started to run and Pulsechain didn't run at least as much, because they said that historically, if you look at times where ETH has run and Pulsechain hasn't shown at least equal strength, in the subsequent days, Pulsechain would get giga nuked. So there were quite a few people that were looking at that as a whether or not to be worried about the local price action. And so thankfully it came through and actually showed some strength, or showed more than an adequate amount of strength for their fears to be alleviated. Let's take a look at Hex. I haven't actually been marking these charts up specifically for this stream. And so we'll be doing it live, right? We're working it out as we go. I've got no idea what those dotted lines are, but we've got the fibs on here. So similar chart here where we're making higher highs and higher lows. This is the weekly chart. And you can see that right now, even though this week hasn't closed, in its current state, this is a bullish engulfing candle. So the price action of this week up till now has actually fully reversed the entire candle of last week's downward action. This would be incredibly bullish if we were to close here or higher. But obviously it's not the close is not for days. Let's take a look at the daily chart.
Strong Power Force says we will blow through break-even season so fast no one will even see it right into the super cycle.
Since that chart was very similar looking to Pulse, let's actually have a look at it versus Pulse, right? So yeah, it paints quite a different picture. It's pretty sideways against Pulse. Well, or even you could even argue looks like it's kind of still in a downtrend, or maybe double bottomed. This would be the most bullish interpretation of this chart against Pulse would be a double bottom. That is a horrendous looking chart. Just not because it's gone down so much. Just like the shape of it is just not a pretty chart. But yeah, look, there's definitely I'm very bullish on both hexes, but in particular E-hex. And so we'll just have to see how that plays out. Obviously, it's got a similar gain. I noticed it ran first, and I saw Hex and Pulse X actually pumped more than Pulse at first. And then remember that these 24-hour gains are always like a little bit not accurate, or they're not because of the way they mark them. They're a bit not. They're not always the best indicator of which asset is performing the best or which one has actually pumped the hardest and that sort of thing. So let's go to, what should we do next? Should we do Pulse X?
I love that you're most bullish on E-hex over the two hexes. Talk to us about that a bit. Is that because
I think I talked about this in the past. So you've got a few unique things about it that you don't have. So one is the fact that it's lower in price, but it's the same tech, right? It's like identical code, like very similar user base. Like they're, same branding, same logo, all the things that Richard says about, the best name, three-letter domain, greatest tech, all of the like heaps of things just apply equally to both.
Yeah.
But then you've got the fact that it's lower in price, which means people perceive that they can get more units. So you've got unit bias working in your favor. And then you've also got the fact that it's detached from. So if people say, oh man, for whatever reason, I'd love to have like a little bit of diversification away from just everything going up and down, the rising tide that lifts and sinks all boats over on Pulsechain. This is an asset that is still Richard Hart related that's actually over on a different chain. So you can get chain diversification without feeling like you're dogging the boys. So it's, and by the way, that means different things in different countries, but it just means like without feeling like you're betraying your team. And so
we had that conversation about dogging the boys. I love it.
It just means betrayal, like as in betraying the team. Over here, it just means if you betray your team, like you're dogging the boys.
In the UK, it gets me demonetized.
Oh wait, but whose rules apply? Because isn't that a weird thing?
I was just trying to make the point that it's a very.
Does it though? Does it really? So if you're a UK channel, do they apply like UK slang to whether you're swearing or not? Like, is that? I don't know. But apologies if that is, it was not intended to mean anything rude.
I was just trying to be funny. I was just trying to be funny. The other thing, I love your list, by the way. That's a really great list. You can't argue with it, can you, everyone?
I think I had a couple of other things on there. I've got more. It's the OG Hex. It's Richard's Bitcoin. It's Richard's Bitcoin. It's Richard's baby. It's Richard's first coin. Now, you can argue, oh, well, when a fork occurs, they share the same history. Yeah. Tell that to the Bitcoin Cash guys, right? Like it's, which one's the fork. So, and the price chart tells you as well, because you see the price chart history, right? Does PHEX have the price chart history going back to the start of? No, it doesn't. So you know which one's the OG. So,
but it is a bit confusing. Can I jump in there? It is a bit confusing. There's a bit of a lag, so just watch out for when I'm talking. But
sorry, yeah.
That's fine. I'll try and do likewise, but there is a bit of a lag. But the fact that Hex on Pulsechain is higher would normally assume that it's the original, but so it's a bit weird that the clone is more valued than the original. But so
Great counter.
that might cause people to think that.
That's a great counter, like as in, because some would argue that the price, well, it's really social consensus is the real decider, and then price typically follows that. So with the Bitcoin Cash wars, yes, the price is, people would look at the price now and say, well, that's clearly the real Bitcoin. But the reason it went that way was somewhat, so it's these are things that only happen in crypto, right? In the legacy world, we've never had to navigate this as a society to be like, which one's the real one? That question would be ridiculous in any other context. So yeah, so as we zoom out, this is actually looking quite strong in terms of finding support over here on this hex chart. I mean, look, when you look at how low it was back in, that's just over a year ago. This is a lot better against Pulse. Like against Pulse, it looks better. But I guess because Pulse has gone down, I guess then it's dollar chart. Anyway, let's take a look at something like PulseX, because we want to do the other hex as well, and then we want to do PulseX and Ink as well, I think. There are a lot of Ink fans. There are a lot of Ink fans in the community. And here, we'll do Ink next. So, PulseX is the number 2 hot coin today. Damn. So, what do we got here? Yeah, still sort of going sideways.
You know, when you're doing your charts now, could you do it in the context of Richard says we're all going to be very happy in a couple of months? What could that mean? Where could we be in a couple of months' time?
God candles on the chart.
Yeah.
Sorry, headphone users, but we need the God candles on the chart. That's what we need.
Yeah, that's good.
So, a God candle on the chart would certainly fill the like one of the checklist items for something that could make the community happy. So if people were going to be happy, I mean, I don't want to even wait a couple of months. I remember, bro, can I tell you that I remember when people in the first year of Pulsechain's existence, when people were saying, Richard said 52 weeks to shake out the weak hands, I said, nuh-uh, I am not waiting that long. I refuse to do it. We need to go up before that. Otherwise, I'm going to be very not happy. I was like, hell no, I'm not waiting 52 weeks. That's forever in crypto. And then do you know what happened? That 52 weeks ended. And then we did another 52 weeks. And then we did another set of weeks that I haven't counted because I would probably cry, joking. And then we still haven't really gone up. But I guess I think back to how I used to say to people, jokingly, obviously, where I was like, hell no, I'm not waiting 52 weeks. Are you joking? 52 weeks? We waited 2 years for the chain to even launch. I'm not waiting another 52 weeks for this thing to pump. And, here we are. So, and in fact, can I mention that interestingly, there's been a bit of this, like there have been people within the community that like threaten to leave, joke about leaving, pretend to leave, get accused of by other people that they are leaving, things like this, right? Most of it's just a LARP. But I started to ask myself the question, why are there certain people that don't leave even if they are saying certain things or they've whatever their like their public wallet shows certain things, and you think, why don't they leave? And I think one of the biggest reasons why people don't leave is because we actually do have the most engageable community. So we actually have multiple people who are not actually a part of the community that come over to chat with us, even though they actually don't, or they claim to not hold the assets. I know 2 Bitcoiners at least who come and chill. And it's not because of me. It's not like I brought my Bitcoin bros over. These are guys that I didn't know before. I met them through Pulsechain. So I've met other Bitcoiners through Pulsechain. What? So there's whatever it is. I'm not saying I know what it is. You guys have to work it out as much as I have to work it out. But there's this strange thing where there is something about the social aspect of the Pulsechain community that has people wanting to engage with the community regardless of their attitude towards Richard, towards the chain, towards the assets, whether they hold them or not, whether they like the people, whether they get along, whether they think, whether their experience is positive, negative. It's like this, dude, there's something magnetic about this community.
I think so, man. I think so, man, because I noticed that when we got this fantastic news from Richard that he was effectively calling the bottom, lots and lots of tweets about Joe Rogan and live streaming and how we're all going to be very happy in 2 months. I went over onto the price chart and initially nothing. And then suddenly we start ticking up. And I think that what I've noticed as well as people are saying to me, the sentiment on X is starting to come back already. And we see that, and I think it goes to your point about how we've got a strong community and a really good vibe. And I think that once we start getting a price that is semi-okay, like you said, anything over above 50% of SAC stops you feeling nauseous, I think you said. And that's the case there. Just going to the other thing you were saying, just picking up a couple of your good points, this business about how it has taken us a lot longer to see positive price action in Pulsechain than any of us expected. I mean, it's been exactly the same thing if you had a big bag of Ethereum, because if you look at it, Ethereum was 4,000, a year ago? More than a year ago? Somebody say in the chat. Ages ago. And at that point, no Ethereum whale thought they were going to be at $2,700 a year later, still waiting for the 20K Ethereum or 15K Ethereum or whatever we end up getting. And it just shows that crypto is an investment. There is no guarantee of the timeline, and you just have to remain bullish, and you have to stick with it and things. Yeah, what do you think to that?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
One of the things that happened to me recently is about 2 weeks ago, I said I think that Bitcoin will be all-time high this week, and Ethereum will be 3,000 or 3,300 by the end of the week. I can't remember which I said. Anyway, I got 50% of my prediction right because Bitcoin went to all-time high, but Ethereum still didn't, make us all rich. And we had a troll. It didn't mention the fact that Bitcoin had gone to all-time high as I predicted, but kept on about the fact that Ethereum hadn't gone to 3,000, and Crypto 7 said by the end of this week Ethereum will be 3,000. And I think probably in the end of the next week Ethereum will be 3,000 or maybe sooner. And it just shows that you can't go far wrong being bullish on crypto. You just have to accept that the timeline is its timeline. It doesn't work to your timeline. It doesn't care when you wanted your house in the Hamptons. It doesn't care when you wanted to pay for your daughter's wedding. It will deliver when it wants to deliver. And I think that's what we're seeing in the tweeting from Richard now, that he's signaling now's the time eventually. I think all this pain that we've had in the community will be forgotten very quickly. But we've broken it down, as you rightly say. It's the 50% of SAC is when Tangent stops being nauseous. We know that SAC price is when a lot of people are going to feel like they want to put stickers on their cars. We've referred to that as well. I think that's perfect. I think it's a brilliant sort of ready.
If you said to me right now, if you said, I just looked at the ETH chart and the price is $3,100, I would be happy. But I wouldn't even be surprised, bro.
Yes.
I wouldn't be like, no way. I'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like that sounds reasonable. It's just
if it was the other side of the CPI read, yes. Or we just heard news about, the China US deal is good. Then yes, I wouldn't be surprised. Completely agree. And that just shows. Funny enough, the recurring theme in this stream, you were talking about how you're ordering cars because you're that confident, and I'm the same. And by the way, I've never sold a core coin. I'm not using Hex and Pulsechain to be buying cars. But
same.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, isn't it?
My
a lot of people here. Crypto 7.
My SAC wallets are untouched. My SAC wallets are untouched. I didn't even farm them. Like I literally, like my main one, and I didn't touch it at all. It's literally been cold storage like the entire time.
Mine are as untouched as the Virgin Mary.
So yeah. Look, so as we speak, so ETH has been like running up on 2,800. It's looking good. So in this, can you guys still see this Pulsechain chart? This PLSX, sorry. This was the chart. Remember, Seven, we looked at it a while back on your stream, where this was the channel that people thought that Pulse X was actually going to run up and meet 1-to-1 with Pulse, because this chart we're looking at right here. Oh, sorry, wait. This is actually not. This is
why you do that.
this.
Can people help promote this? Because this is about our third or fourth attempt to stream together, and there's all sorts of links.
Oh yes, yeah.
Anyone that can help out.
I wanted to talk about that. My delay in posting this YouTube link. I've done it now, but the delay in me doing it on X, I was going to apologize for it, and then I realized, hang on a second, people should just be subscribed to your channel anyway. So that's punishment. That's an adequate punishment for not being subbed. I want to see Seven's metrics literally double before this thing runs, because crypto has been a bit of a ghost town with, even the diehard crypto people have been taking time off or not being as engaged. And that's where some of the diehard people get more edge, or someone can come in new and get an advantage. I tweeted out saying, if you've been focused over the last couple of months, you're actually at a massive advantage, even against some people who have been in crypto a really long time, who sort of just got burnt out and fatigued and stopped being as driven. So
can I pick up on that? Because that's thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. And I gotta say, and I saw it, and was just seeing a nice comment from Elbow. I've got to. I think Elbow was saying something about, could the cycle be over in 2 months? I don't think the cycle could possibly be over for Hex and Pulsechain in 2 months, because where we are at the moment, and going to Tangent's point about the metrics, is we are still a well-kept secret. When my view numbers are terrible compared to where they used to be, and they're not picking up yet. And in fact, they're still going down. So I will know when new money is coming in, because the view numbers will start picking up very rapidly. I was talking about this. I used to average 4,000 views a stream. Now I'm averaging 1,000 views a stream. And that's not picking up yet. So we will know. And that's bullish, because we know that Richard Hart has called the bottom. We know that Richard Hart's going on about live streaming and going on Joe Rogan. We know that he's saying they're all going to be happy in 2 months. The question is, are you going to wait 2 months to find out he was right? Or are you going to increase your investment in Hex and Pulsechain today? I know what I'm doing. I know what my friend Corey Geary's doing. I know what Tangent's doing.
Yeah, man. Yep. I think every crypto community out there needs to ask themselves, when people come into crypto, when retail gets here, when the exit lit gets here, why would they come and why would they buy my bags? Right? Everyone needs to ask that question. I know the answer for Pulsechain. It's because there's literally the most number of active people and real devs and real development and real build and that what I was saying before about how some people from other communities come to chill with us even without holding the assets. For a fact that once the candles are green, the vibes are going to be fixed. The vibes are going to be immaculate. The number of people showing up to Twitter Space and stuff like that will be 10x what it is now. Everything's going to be 10 times better, and people are going to want to participate in that. So, and that's not the only reason, but to me, that's the main reason, right? And also, you could imagine that if Richard starts like flexing intellectually, that's another reason why people might get inspired to be in this ecosystem rather than others.
And the other reasons are price action, because people are going to be coming into crypto in the next 2 to 3 months. Solana will be back at $300, started the bull market at $8. And so people are going to be looking for things that have still got some headroom, still got some legs. And Hex and Pulsechain may not be even at the all-time high from this cycle so far, which was 3 zeros and a 3, which is 10x from here. It's fantastic numbers. And so people are going to think, okay, well, this is a new layer 1. The red notice is resolved. Richard is streaming. We're not even at 3 zeros and a 3 yet. whereas Solana's at $400-500, Cardano's at $3 or $4. You know, I've missed the bull market in a lot of cryptos now. I've definitely missed it. This is how people will think. I've definitely missed it in Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
I missed most of it in Ethereum, you know, and I think this is how people will think. Well, thanks very much again for another generous super chat. Super force.
It's absolutely true that basically it's a win-win, because once everything starts going up, there will be people who chase green, and there will be people that, you know, for whatever reason, but there will also be like gem hunters who are trying to find things that haven't pumped yet. But now, like, normally when I say things like that, I'm talking about individual tokens. Now I'm talking about for entire ecosystems. So I think the likelihood that we have this massive alt run where everything runs, and somehow any of the ecosystems get totally left behind and don't pump, it just seems very unlikely, especially when you've got like vibrant community and that sort of thing. Look, anything's possible, and I know people find it very difficult to believe in seeing prices just rocket upwards when their recency bias tells them that this thing never goes up, right? And that is the fatal error that people make and end up being positioned incorrectly because of that. Have I ever on this show talked about the difference between Eastern and Western culture to do with this specific thing? They say that in Western culture, people believe that the longer something has stayed the same, the more likely it is to remain the same. Whereas in Eastern culture, they're more likely to believe that the longer something has remained the same, the closer you are to change. So, I mean, that would mean they would make better traders in crypto, because and maybe they do, man. Maybe they do, because they actually have that attitude. It's complete reversal of that attitude of. And by the way, if you just look at any cryptocurrency chart historically, you absolutely see that, where there's these long ass bottoms and then it just goes to the moon just super suddenly, or in reverse, it's going up, and then eventually just snaps and just and goes to the floor. So
yeah, I think that Oriental mindset is much better suited to crypto, where there is so much change. Change is the only constant in crypto, and there's a lot of change. And I think that is absolutely right. And this is the thing why I'm so bullish on crypto, is that Bitcoin is 109,000, Ethereum is breaking out, and yet we've only just tipped into greed. So we've got a lot of sentiment runway to go. Even us hexicans and pulsicans who watch all the shows, we're and you can see it in the chat, we're only kind of half believing this. It's almost, we can't believe it, because as you say, we've been under so much stress and pain with this for so long. But I think that it's not going to take long, a week or two maybe, of this kind of price action, and we'll all be in a different place psychologically, won't we? I mean, this is the stuff that Matty Orlin talks about, you know, where you are in terms of your baseline and things psychologically.
Yeah. I often speak about how reflexive these systems are. They are insanely reflexive, and we just haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen how these things just, it's a literal flywheel. Once it gets spinning, it is just absolutely bonkers.
But the flywheel starting to spin already. I've got people saying to me, I want to onboard. What videos should I send them? People are starting to message me. I've onboarded somebody today, you know, and I've not heard that for months. I've not heard anyone say to me, Crypto7, I onboarded my boss. I've not heard anyone say anything like that for months to me.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I told you that I was at a dinner with some friends, and one of them came up to me and they were like, thank you so much for telling me about the Pulsechain community on Twitter. I've really been enjoying like seeing all the positive vibes and stuff like that. And at first I was like, is he being sarcastic? because locally at that time there had been a little bit of drama. So I was like, is this a joke? But he was being serious. And it's like, it just shows how the algo is different for everyone. And so he had this very positive perception of the Pulsechain community. And so, yeah, man, it's good times. So let's quickly talk about this PLSX chart so we can get onto a different chart.
Yeah, and thanks again,
This-
Strong Power Force, for the nice super chat. And he says your views are going to over 100,000 soon.
Yeah.
So and just watch. Really
You're
appreciate
gonna
that.
everything literally goes up together. So like
Mm.
engagement, view counts, the positivity, like these are all the reasons why it's so reflexive, is because
Mm.
everything gets better together, and they force multiply each other. And so when the times are good, it's really, really, really good. And when the times are bad, they're like extra bad. So this, I think you actually were the one that told me this, that Pulse X actually clipped the 1-to-1 ratio with Pulse.
Yeah,
Up when it spiked this, but it didn't stay up there long. It pulled back down to 3/4, but this technically is in another uptrend, right? So at the moment, it's 0.87 of Pulse. That's pretty incredible. You know how recently earlier in this stream I mentioned the bags that my cold storage sack bags, right? In my mind, because I don't look at them, in my mind, I think of the Pulse X bag as being worth like significantly less than the Pulse bag, but they're nearly the same now. Like that's like close enough, man. Like that's close enough to being basically the same. So this has been insane. I saw a dashboard that someone created that showed, and I think this must be incorrect, that the total buy and burn of Pulse X since the very start was only 1%, like just under 1% of total supply.
No, it's
But
more than that.
it's more than that, right? So I think that dashboard must have been wrong.
I think it's
Because or maybe it was
I think it may even be 7% now. I think it's 6%. Everyone will know.
damn nice.
Somebody
So
saying
I knew something was up. I was like, hang on a second, this doesn't
No.
tie in with what I'd heard people saying. But anyway,
No,
so we're in an uptrend,
7%, isn't it, guys?
If you were to look at, let me put this on weekly and ask you a question. Ask you, the viewer. If you saw this chart, if you saw this chart that I'm showing you right now, and someone said, would you buy this? Is this chart bullish, chat?
Yeah.
This is a very bullish chart. This is a very bullish chart. Like it recently made a new all-time high in sort of Feb March, and it's still in a strong uptrend. The rate of uptrend has actually increased. We're in a steeper uptrend now. And look, anything can happen.
Hey, can I jump in?
Really want?
Can I jump in? ADP says it's 7.4%, but don't quote me. You're quoted now, AD.
Close enough. Wait, close enough. It's definitely higher than 1.
Yeah.
When I saw that dashboard, and I thought 1%. That's actually very disappointing, because
I thought you were going to give people long enough to answer whether it would have been interesting to see if people did think it would look bullish or bearish, and would have been quite good.
In terms of okay, yeah. Chat, does this look bullish?
You were going to ask the question, but then you just answered it for people.
So because it was a rhetorical question. So because it's so obviously bullish, bro. It's so obviously bullish, but we could have
identified he wasn't going to make it, couldn't we? We could have chucked the people that weren't going to make it off the super yacht and just carried on without them.
Most people don't actually care about this ratio. Most people own both and just want both of them to go up in dollar terms, right? Yeah. So I don't get too excited about this. The only people who would be really concerned about this particular ratio are people that are trading between Pulse X and Pulse, or people that have got significantly more of one bag than the other, right? And I think that would be a minority, but I might be wrong. So
just to clarify, you don't have to understand TA to stay on the Crypto 7 T7 super yacht.
Correct.
Dummies are still very welcome on the super yacht. That's absolutely fine.
So this is Ink. Ink's another sort of unique. It has a unique difference to the other coins. I'll tell you what they are. No SAC. So that meant that there were no coins that were bought that don't show up on the chart, right? So there's no preloaded supply that's out there that wasn't purchased, and like wasn't purchased from the chart.
No utility.
And it's inflationary and handed out as a reward incentive. So one of those things is good and one of those things is bad. And the other narrative is it has the greenest logo, which is actually true because it's actually a very bright green. So no
I think it's got a
utility,
meme coin
no utility yet? Question mark. I don't know. Like, so I think, I mean, it's been a while. Hey, it's actually
I think it's got a meme coin vibe. I think even Richard Hart said it's his meme coin once. I think it's, and we do have a lot of loud meme coin supporters in the community now. We do have a lot of people who love the whole meme coin thing, and I don't know. I it's a little bit sort of
Seven.
rebellious.
Can I ask you? Can a meme coin exist without any memes?
Well, it does have memes, doesn't it? No, probably not. I would say no.
This is one of those Zen garden.
If no one's bothering to post pictures up and things, but we did see a lot of good artwork for Ink, didn't we? Monsters Inc. and all that stuff, and spaceships and lots. The logo got about X, didn't it?
I actually don't think that question has an answer, and I don't think it needs an answer. I think it's one of those Zen garden questions that you just ask it and let people ponder. But so I mean, it didn't start its life as a meme coin. It's a yield token. It's an incentive token, farming. It's a farming token or a yield token. It's meant to incentivize behavior. So, and by the way, coins can have multiple categories. I love coins that have multiple bull cases, multiple metas, multiple categories. That's great. So it can be theoretically, it can be a farming yield token, and it can also be a meme coin. That's for the audience to decide. So, but let's look at the chart, right? Like, so I know people that, I was in a VC in the, the Pulsechain community space on Telegram, and Rackham was in there, and someone pressured him to give a price prediction on Ink. And like, obviously with all the caveats, not financial advice and all of that, I think he said like, and by the way, don't quote me because my memory, I might not remember what he said exactly, but I think he said $70. I think he was like, okay, $70 for this cycle. So that I might be remembering that incorrectly, but I thought that was good that he at least sort of answered the question, like allowed people to force him into answering the question. He was like, "Yep, 70." So how would that look, right? Let's take a look.
And even that's quite meme coin-esque because it comes with these sort of hardcore bullish predictions that you expect people to bring alongside a meme.
Every crypto. Do you know? Wait, there was a guy that was on Twitter where he was like, "Yo, all this coin needs is one major investor to come in, and we're going to the moon." And I just replied, I said, "Bro, that's literally every coin. That's you just described every cryptocurrency in the game, my bro. Just one big investor, and we're going to the moon. That doesn't make your token unique, bruh." So.
It's like when people get anxious about whales in Pulsechain, and every single crypto's got whales.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. People stress a bit about holder distribution and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, just
people said that about Solana when it was $8 in the bear market. People said it can't go up because there's too many people with huge bags, and look where it is now.
So check this out, Seven. We need to actually adjust this fib all the way down to here because it went and made new lows. And actually up here, because we're on the daily, right? So we'll do this as well. Look. Let's go all the way up to the tippity top of where it went, and then we'll go all the way, including wicks, right? And we'll see if this gets to $70, 40. Because this is your favorite line, Seven, the Pico extension of the fib tool. So $40 would be that top extension. By the way, doesn't guarantee it has to go there. Doesn't guarantee that it has to stop there. It could go higher. We could get the $70 prediction. Who knows? But we're at $1.60 right now. There was like a well-known person that was selling some bags to fund something else that, by the way, was for the community. Like, so he was doing something for the community, but he said, I'm going to fund this by dumping ink. And then some people got upset. And it's like, so some of these red candles that you see over here might have been that dude, but it's recovering now. It's bouncing. $1.66.
I'd love that. And I've got a bag of incentive. Yeah,
everyone does, right?
Yeah, so I'd love that. But do you see how even you've fallen into the trap where you're going like, well, it could do this, it could do that. I haven't heard you say what Pulsechain could do in this cycle, price-wise, but you just, it's almost
anything's possible for any of these tokens.
You know how with a meme coin, it's almost like you're allowed a bit of poetic license when it comes to price predictions. It's almost about like it's acceptable to say, wow, Dogecoin did it, so why can't this meme coin do it? And shit.
Oh, okay.
And we fall into that trap with memes, and then with with something that actually has utility like Pulsechain, that's something that's actually a platform for building and things. We're sort of like, oh well, it would be nice when we go to sack price.
I was just about to say something that could sound a bit like a price prediction, even though it's not. Is I have said, maintained, never changed my opinion, stuck with for the entire time that if we don't do at least, if we don't go to at least say 2x of SAC, not only would I be shocked, but I would be appalled, quite frankly.
Oh yeah.
So
that's not even. I don't even think that's technically possible. Assuming an altcoin. No, assuming an altcoin.
The math doesn't allow it, Seven.
I don't think it
doesn't allow it.
I think it does.
It would have to break the laws of physics or something. For how?
I tried to think of an analogy, but I just don't think. I don't think the math allows it. You say because if we have Banana Zone, if we have an altcoin season, it looks like it's starting. Everything goes up. All shit coins go up. So surely, like I say, the very first point of reference is what's it been to so far this cycle already. And so that's and the more people rush into crypto later in this bull market and realize they're late to the party and realize they're late to this crypto and they're late to that crypto. And I would have loved to have got into Hyperliquid when it's $1, but it's now $300. I think they're going to go, okay, well, what about this Pulsechain stuff? I need to be getting some of this. And Richard Hart's just gone on Joe Rogan. I mean, I can't see how if we only go to. And that's the other thing. That would have to be because we talk on Crypto 7 about the three realities which create three different price predictions for Pulsechain. But in a reality in this bull market where Pulsechain doesn't go above 2x of SAC price, presumably that reality involves no live streaming from Richard, no red notice resolution, no SAC fund deployment. I mean, you'd have to, you're
talking like you're talking worst case, like the worst of everything, like literally everything that's possible that's bad. Happens.
That's what we do on Crypto 7. I think it's really useful to break it down into these scenarios because they will make such a huge difference.
In this hypothetical, is the market still good? Like the overall, is it like we're getting stomped with bad news on every front?
But Bitcoin's going to 130, 140 in this reality. Solana's going to Ethereum's going to like 8, 10K, 12K, something like that. 12K.
Me likey. Okay, so no chance that we wouldn't have just absolutely when I say no chance, I mean extremely unlikely.
Yeah, extremely unlikely is as good as
you wouldn't be able to hold us down, bro. You wouldn't be able to hold us down. It would be like one of those. I don't even need the analogy because just imagine something exploding. Like it just that you wouldn't. You can't stop me now. Like it's.
Yeah.
Try and stop me. That is just not possible. Not possible. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? So
talking about the sentiment coming in, Duke of Booze is a regular watcher, just put in a very generous super chat as well. So, it just shows strong power force, Duke of Booze put in very nice super chats, and it just shows that the community, like you say, we're starting to order our new cars. We're starting to realize that this is happening, guys, and the people.
It might be because we're talking about ink. I know there's a lot of ink fans talking about ink. Might be part of the fever. But yeah, dude, I've drawn a couple of downtrends here and like and an uptrend. So uptrend on the lows. This is still on ink. This is still daily candles. So uptrend on the lows that we made. Was that all-time low? Pretty like, well, yearly low in March. And Seven, do you remember at the very start of the year when I used the fact that the year had clicked over to start saying yearly highs and stuff like that as a bit of a joke, but also it's technically accurate, right? That was the highest price of the year and things like that. Now we're over halfway through or nearly halfway through the year. That actually starts to be more meaningful when you say, yeah, this is like the yearly high, or we've been in an uptrend all year. Like this year has been an uptrend for Pulsechain, because it's actually true, right? That lots of our assets have actually been in an uptrend for most of this year, if not all of it. So
yeah, I like it, man. It's got me thinking maybe you could do the same when we get to sack rate. You could say, right, this is the start. I'm not even interested in what the chart did in the last 2 years. This is the start of the chart. So we go from sack rate to 2x of sack. That's 100% gain. And we basically call launch price. Go back to calling it, create a chart where we just effectively have the sack prices for PLS and PLSX as the bottom of the y-axis.
Seven, this is a little bit off topic, but I just thought of it based on what you were saying. Someone tweeted at Richard. I thought it was very polite and respectful, and he said, bro, when you live stream, you could be talking absolute nonsense and it sounds smart. But when you write in text, everyone hates it, bro. Like everyone just hates this text. It doesn't like so true. It just does not like you're masterful on the mic, a king of narration and so narrative and framing and explaining things in a way that people like, so that his tonality and everything is excellent. But so I was like, holy,
because that is the elephant in the room. How have I not? So somebody's randomly just highlighted the issue that I don't know how I've not seen that elephant in the room for the last 3 years. That is so right. His text sound like your dad's texted you. It's like, oh, dad, you can't.
It's boomer vibes. Yeah, it's boomer vibes. Like,
yeah.
Whereas he's a master on the mic, and I think the problem is, so it's that distinction, dude. It's night and day. It's night and day. The difference between him on the mic and him in text is like you. And I thought back to some of the tweets that he's sent out that had like mixed to negative response, and I thought, I can actually see it. I can see that if he had approached this same topic on a stream, it would have sounded way like cooler, for lack of a better word. Like it would have hit harder, come across better. It would have had the nuance to not sound like, weak cope at times and things like that. I really think that person, I forget who it was, otherwise I would shout them out, nailed it.
I was just about to say, I think that person nailed it. It's funny you should say use that exact phrase. And it's kind of like when he live streams, he's captivating. You are literally, hypnotized by his effectiveness. And then when he tweets, it's like, it's piss poor, isn't it? It's so much. It's not even.
It's blocks of text, bro.
Like, oh man, it's like, it's the whole spectrum of the telescope, isn't it? The two different streams of the telescope. Wow. Well, shout out to whoever that was, who's just basically told us what really was the elephant in the room for me. It's so obvious when you think about it, but I've never really.
It's like it's one of those things, man, where it is obvious, but no one had really said it like that. I don't know. It
reminds me of when I had to stop bike racing and I was working in London. And
sorry, Seven. I've worked it out. Cool. Everyone was aware of the two things individually. they knew that his streams are killer, and they knew that his tweets were not like hitting well, like not hitting as well as they could. But no one really
Nobody made the
worked out
sign out.
what the specific thing of why there was just why it was bipolar difference between one and the other. Because people would think to themselves, well, it's the same person with the same ideas and the same intellect and the same drive and the same, desire for glory and for the chain to succeed and all everything else. It's the same person. So a lot of people attributed it to him like losing his spark. Like some people were saying, oh, he's just not he's just not the dude he once was, or the money changed him and stuff like that. Like I think people really sort of assigned these reasons that are actually not the problem. The problem is the format. The problem is the medium.
That's a really interesting point as well, isn't it? Because he's so bad on the X medium, you kind of think that he's had a personality change, that he's become less has less empathy maybe as well, but it's not that. It's just that he's not very good at it, and yet he's so extremely good at live streaming, and so there is this huge gulf.
And it's such a restricted format. It's so restrictive. You can't it doesn't have
I love it. And
it doesn't have body language. It doesn't have anything. It doesn't have face. It's literally the most clinical form of communication. It wrecked.
And because he's so bad at it, people say, "Oh, I think he's given his X profile to somebody else," and that lends to that sort of thinking.
I've heard that as well. People say, "Oh, it's not him." You hear that a lot. It's not him tweeting. It's not him. Someone else is on his account and that sort of thing. You hear these things. Yep.
I just think that's really interesting. It's an interesting
one.
Like you say, we're all aware of it, but it took somebody to actually just put the two together. It's like,
so because everyone's so busy assuming that they know what's up. That's part of the problem. Everyone thinks they know what time it is. They're like, oh, this is the reason why this is happening, and it's like, you actually don't know that, bro. like you are making an assumption that is the cause. You don't know that, and then I think once people, especially if enough people start to drive a narrative and say this is the reason, and then more and more people believe it and keep parroting it, in the same way that he famously said some things that was then so repeated by the community that it became law. Like the Hex community parroted his words into law. So law, LORE, by the way. So look, what other charts have we missed? We were going to do EHEX as well, I promised. EHEX. Yeah, here we go.
A bit of EHEX.
It's funny. Some people have been saying to me along the way, like various different coin communities, where they're like, yeah, my coin is one of the Richard Hart cores. And I'm like, bro, tell me you're joking, please. But usually they are just having a laugh. So this is EHEX. Should we look at it against Pulse?
Yeah, and then you were saying earlier what you would see as a complete failure in Pulsechain. What would you see as complete failure in EHEX, and what do you see it going to?
What happened over the last 2 days, bruh?
Dumped a bit in the last 2 days, is it?
What has happened? There was someone who's normally in your comments, I'm not going to name them, who said, I'm going to go and wreck the EHEX chart. But whether this is them or not, I don't know. But they did, I think that was recent, or I can't remember. Maybe it was a screenshot I saw, but for whatever reason. But look, the chart doesn't look terrible overall, but look, the last 2 days against Pulse, nuked. Let me measure this. Just under 10%.
Oh, you're measuring it against Pulse, yeah. Because it's actually,
I guess, look,
it's 3% up on the dollar.
If you ignore that 3 days ago, it literally had this nearly gigacent candle sort of on, look, by by today's standards, by the state of desperation, it had a pretty big candle. If we ignore that candle and the reversal of it, it's actually only down 3% against Pulse.
Do you know what I think that all that is? I think I
This is
can
surprising.
explain. I think I can explain that. I think that because eHex is so easy to convert into other things like Chainlink, which is also on Ethereum, and Chainlink's been going up incredibly well last 24 hours. I think people just think I'm going to flip my eHex into Chainlink because Chainlink's gone up 15% today, and eHex has only gone up 2% against the dollar today. So I'm going to flip my eHex into Chainlink. And later, when everyone's talking about Richard Hart and how he's on Joe Rogan or live streaming or whatever else, I think people are going to go, I'm going to get myself into this community, and the easiest way is just to swap back my Chainlink for eHex.
You know how when Johnny was on your stream, he's been on a couple of times, but at least one of those times he talked about this idea of eHex being closer to the entry exit.
Yeah, he's probably been on 10 times, nearer to the
what you're saying could kind of be related to that in terms of its proximity to being able to be used as economic energy over on that chain. So if someone's like, if a hexagon is like, oh, I want this token, and they go over there and they happen to have that in their wallet, they could theoretically use it to buy something else. Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Have things been pumping over on Ethereum other than ETH, have they? That's great news.
Yeah, we got things like Chainlink going up a lot. I see Pepe, which I think is
nice
meme coin.
I hold Pepe.
Yeah, Pepe is a good one to have. I'm not mad on meme coins, but I do have Dogecoin and Dogechain. I do have a bit of that, but I don't. I've got Most. I've got Richard Hart Most token, but I'm not a big one for memes really.
Oh yeah, actually, you know what? Since you've got it, I was actually going to suggest that we look at least one. Did we finish looking at eHex? But I was going to suggest that we look at least one of Richard Hart's memes on today's channel, and we could look at Most since it's the biggest one. Hey, look, this chart has actually been going up. When we zoom out, let's go to the weekly. So yeah, look, we were too zoomed in, bros.
And what seems realistic or possible for eHex in this bull market? Do you think it could go to 10 cents? Do you think it could go back to all-time high?
Let me get my fib out. Let me get my fib tool out. Let's go like this. This is probably wicked out because it's like this is the eHex that's over on Pulsechain. So these numbers might not even be real, but let's go all the way up. 7 likes to just go straight to the top shelf.
We love it when you whip your fib tool out, buddy.
790 pulse per eHex. So that would be, what would that be? Maybe we just go and do it on the actual dollar chart so that we can give dollar values without having to do mental arithmetic live. But look, the eHex chart against Pulse, before we leave this one, has been in an uptrend since the kill shot. It's literally been in an uptrend since the kill shot. And you know what's interesting about this? I'll turn the log on in a second just to make sure.
And just for clarity for people coming into Hex and Pulsechain, when Tangent talks about the kill shot, Richard merely said that the market seems to be currently preferring Hex on Pulsechain to Hex on Ethereum.
Yeah, it wasn't you, but someone did highlight that to me. Someone did highlight that to me. They said, hey, man, I actually didn't interpret it as being like even though the market, obviously, I think once we coupled up what happened to the price afterwards, then it modified our memory of the intention, because it was like really brutal to the price. But when you read specifically the literal text, yeah, he doesn't say like dump this one for this one. He just says, look, the market looks like.
I think the reason it got called a kill shot is quite simple, because most of the Hex OGs probably had more Hex on Ethereum than they did Hex on Pulsechain. Most of the guys who started out back in the AA adoption amplifier phase probably had more Hex on Ethereum than anything else. So anything that discourages their main holding, there's massive bag bias, isn't there? They're going to be very upset. Anything that encourages the sale of Hex on Ethereum for something else, they're going to be like, what?
I was a big fan of the quote from Richard Hart that said, I do not want to see cheap Hex anywhere. I want Hex expensive on every chain. So I was always keen for the idea that I was going to have two assets that were going at least of all the things that forked over. I was like, okay, if everything else that gets forked over just crashes and burns, this has to be the one asset that retains value on both sides. Like it's the one that had, in my mind, I was like, this had the best chance of retaining some reasonable value level on both chains. And so when this happened, where I was like, man, if this coin can't do it, then what chance does any other coin have of doing this thing where there's value on both sides? Obviously, now when we look back, there has been great example. There have been other examples of things having value on both sides, but that was for me, that was my main concern, because I held equal amounts of both. So I wasn't actually bag bias at the time. It was more, I was like, oh man, can we just stop killing narratives over here? Like, I was like, this is another narrative that could potentially die. We've murked enough narratives. I'm running out of narratives over here. So,
but it's what's created this opportunity, isn't it now? Because it's what's created this entry. If you did want to get into Hex on Ethereum, do you think it's possible that Hex on Ethereum from these prices could outperform Hex on Pulsechain for the remainder of the bull market, being that we are so much lower? And like you said, it's effectively the same thing. They're both Rolex Submariners. They both got boxes and papers. They're both Rolex Submariners. And yet Hex on Ethereum Submariner is a lot cheaper than the Hex on Pulsechain Submariner.
Yeah, absolutely. So like, as in, I think obviously what we're most likely to see is there's going to be a fluctuation of that ratio up and down. That's the most likely outcome. But yeah, the reasons that I gave earlier in this stream as to why this asset is still incredible and unique could absolutely see it outperforming in a ratio sense. And again, similar to what I said about Pulse and PulseX, ideally what we want is for them just to both go up, right? Like the ideal situation is people not even caring about the ratio anymore because both of them have gone up so much. That's the win. Right? So while we're still talking about the ratio, it means we haven't had the big win. We haven't had the big candles. And so yeah. So that's EHEX, and we'll take a quick look at most, and then I think we can wrap it up. Chat, was there any other charts that I promised that we haven't done yet? So most is up 6% today. Oh, okay. So the chart actually went down quite a bit. This was a little bit disappointing, actually.
What happens to most token when Richard isn't most wanted? Pumps.
So the law will never die, right? So even if it is in the memory of it, so yeah, that can never unhappen. Like, that happened. So I don't think that the token will, in terms of a commemorative asset, at a minimum, by the way, I don't think I don't think people are ever going to be like, oh, well, he's actually been cleared of all wrongdoing now in the eyes of the law and the court. So now there's no, because it was a meme to start with, right? So it's not like its value was ever supposed to be tied to the outcome of the thing or his legal status. So I think
that's right. But people say in the replay, what you think? Do you think that most tokens
it might even be funnier,
more valuable when he can go to conferences freely? Or do you think it becomes less valuable? I think it becomes more valuable.
Yeah, it could actually become funnier. Do you remember when Ivan on Tech, was it Ivan on Tech? Someone said, it was Ivan on Tech. Find the coins that get funnier as the price goes up. If you're looking for memes, find the ones where the humor increases with the price going up.
Oh, that's definitely most token then, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly could be. So yeah, look, I think this, maybe we should actually be looking at this versus PLS as well.
People that come into crypto in a year or two, they're not going to believe that he was on the Interpol list. they're going to think that's a joke. Particularly if he's not obviously on it at that point. He's at conferences and things and live streaming with Joe Rogan, and people are going to say, "What?"
Yeah, live stream with Joe Rogan would be dope. I can't believe this actually put in a new low against even against Pulsechain. And you know that we've got the rule where we ignore the day one exuberance. So this is really the chart here, and it actually put in a new low. That's a bit sad. So look, in some of the like smaller chat groups that I'm in, they blame a specific person for this carnage. And by the way, it's not Richard. But like, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But if it is that guy, let the chart breathe, bro. Let the chart breathe. Take your foot off the neck, and let it breathe a little bit. But but I don't think he actually watches your channel, so it's all good. So yeah, that's about it. I think that's all the charts. Let me just quickly check chat to see. You know, because looking at the chart actually sparks what I believe to be quite valuable conversation between the two of us. It actually does take a really long time just to do the core coins. But yeah, the chat looks lit. Everyone's stoked.
Yeah, the chat does. This is the thing, isn't it? It's like I said earlier, you know, initially the community was like, we've heard it all before, Richard, you know. Even the "you're going to be happy in 2 months" didn't get a reaction, and then people were like, "Hang on a minute." It looks like he called the bottom.
Aaron's keen for Banana Zone. Red Squirrel obviously remembers some of my earliest streams from like years ago. That's a joke from one of those. And then, yeah, Wales. So, that's interesting. Elbow's asking, Wales cheating at sack level? ? My personal opinion and prediction, or what I think is usually happens, is once you have sustained, powerful up moves, everyone changes their attitude towards selling.
Yeah.
So holders turn into buyers, sellers turn into holders, because it's the entire setup. It's the fear in reverse, right? You go from fear of losing all your money in an asset that's heading to zero or looks like it's heading towards zero to fear of missing out, right? So I actually think that if you were to survey the whales or the community and say, hey, when are you planning to sell? I think you would get a very different picture when we actually get up to those levels. When we get to the levels where people were thinking that they wanted to sell, because it's dynamic, right? And the emotions, the dopamine, all of that stuff changes as the price changes. So I'm a big believer in the reflexivity. I'm a big believer that we need to get the chrome on the Benz. Richard, put the god. No, I'm just kidding. But like a god candle on the chart, or a couple of god candles, or some sustained upward, I think would really make a big difference, and people would be like scared to sell.
And then it was brilliantly put. And then a couple after, because I do think we will get some psychological selling at the sack price. But then if Richard then puts in a god candle or two after that, then the people that sold a load, sack price are going to look really silly when we go to 10x sack, 20x sack, and they're going to be really sad. And I was watching some of RG3 stream with Johnny Chaos, etc., and they were talking about this, how a lot of hexagons sold way too early, and then they came on stream literally crying that they'd sold at a 50x or a 60x, and then we went on to thousands of x's and they missed out.
Yeah. You hear those stories as well, right? Where people are like, "Oh, I sold at a 20x, and then it went and did like 1,000x." Not just in hex, like in all sorts of different assets. So, Strong Power Force is saying, what will happen when there's an ETF for these assets? I wouldn't bank on that happening this cycle, even though anything's possible. Like anything's possible. So you could theoretically get an ETF for Pulse or whatever. Like you could, right? Anyone who's, I know there are some people that say that'll never happen. It's like, you can't say that. It's possible. But I think just don't rely on it for the cycle.
I think more altcoin ETFs will legitimize altcoins as a sector, and they'll sort of like give them more credibility. But I agree with you. I think what you might see is they set up they set up a Solana ETF or something, or an XRP ETF, and you actually, in 2 or 3 months' time, when the prices have gone up a lot more again, and then people go, well, I don't really want to get it now, and because we saw that with Ethereum, that we spent a long
I was actually wrong about Ethereum. I was wrong about Ethereum by a lot. I was like, there's no way they're going to have an Ethereum ETF anytime within the next like 2 years. And then it like happened nearly straight away after that. It was very like, or at least it feels that way. It seemed very quick after Bitcoins.
Yes.
And
yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. That caught me
yeah.
out as well. But then also, had you assumed that we would get one, you would have assumed that we would have got more buying immediately for it. It took a long time before the institutions decided that it was better to buy, or it was a good idea to buy nearly as much Ethereum as Bitcoin. It's taken this entire time. I don't know how long. I think the ETFs have been out nearly 2 years now. And it's taken this entire time until the institutions are buying regularly and daily Ethereum. And so my point is, if we get a bunch more altcoin ETFs later in this bull market, are the big boys going to want to start aping into them through the ETFs at a late stage in the bull market? Because they politely declined Ethereum for a long time, even though they had it. That was my point.
Elbow asked about RH going on some big shows like Banter, etc. Literally, those appointments are waiting for him, bro. Like he's basically got an open invitation to go on Ivan on Tech, Banter. All of those shows would happily have him on, dude. That is definitely a one-way street that he just needs to want to go on there or be able to go on there, whatever. And I believe it would make a big difference. Yeah, I think it would be massive.
Yeah, massive agreement on all of those points. They'd send a car. They'd send a car for him. They'd be absolutely, I mean, forget about it,
Yeah, 100%. Like, as in, because remember, especially for Ran and Ivan, they have demonstrated over a long-term period that they are not trying to gatekeep the community or Richard, and it's big news. Like it would make a massive. So for the views on their channel, it would be insanely high views. Have the person who beat the SEC talk to him about that. Like it would be a win-win. In fact, a triple win. It would be a win for Richard, our community, and also the channel, whatever channels he goes on.
And this is when we would just leave those sack prices for dust, and we would just start to see some sort of crazy gains. And it could be the timing's perfect because retail are finally coming in, banana zone's finally here. People see they've missed the boat in most altcoins, but they look at Pulsechain and it's got the narrative and it's got the community and it's got the streamers, and they say, oh, I've got to get this now. And then we see that same crazy FOMO buying that we saw for EHEX, which sent EHEX from 11 cents to 56 cents in just 30 days in the last bull market.
By the way, it's rumored that it is very, very, very expensive to be able to go onto those channels to talk about your stuff. So this is like free value that is being offered and afforded to Richard and our community. That would be amazing if it got taken up on at some point.
Priceless. Particularly some of the big channels that have such high view numbers and things, and it's real view numbers. It's not like the algorithms on X and things, which is mostly bots and things, and it says, oh, there's X number of people watching or whatever. Shout out to KCT's just come in the chat. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, man, I've really enjoyed this stream. Thank you so much for going overtime so that we could right the wrongs of the digital cabal that worked against us to give the wrong stream links. And also, we've probably streamed long enough that people that came in late and watched us at 1.5x have probably caught up in time to see the ending. Shout out to the audience. You guys are legendary. And yeah, man, that's if I haven't already said it this stream, I am super bullish. I am super, super, super bullish.
Talking about super,
ETH is strong. Everything's looking strong. All the Pulsechain assets are looking strong now. And yeah, I'm bullish. This is it. This could be it.
And talking about super, thanks for the super chats, guys, from Strong Power Force and Duke of Booze. That's super kind of you.
Awesome.
Peace.
Oh yeah, Elbow's talking about the China deal. It's done. It's done.
Hang on. You can't go yet then. That's fabulous.
I thought you already talked about that in your first stream.
Yeah, but only the framework. If we got more, we're waiting for some more detail. Maybe that's what Elbow's talking about. Let's see if we can see it in the price. We
See,
can
I
give a
never
like.
actually looked it up. I just trusted my quants. That's how good they are. I know that they don't make mistakes. I'm just kidding. But let's just go like China Trump deal or something.
Yeah, no, the prices are the same as they were when we started streaming, so I don't think there's been anything.
Yeah, I think it happened a couple of hours ago, like a couple of hours before we started streaming. But yeah, it's remember, we try to not let the stuff outside of crypto impact us. So, but yeah, let's go. Yeah, hopefully more good news on the horizon, more green candles. Hopefully a god candle or two makes their way onto the chart, sneaks through the back door and gets on the chart. And that's it, man. We're just I'm sure that this is going to be fun.
I'm not sure I want a god candle sneak through the back door tangent.
Onto the back door of the chart.
Peace, everyone.
Sneaky god candles. Dude, at this point, we have to take these god candles any way we can get them, bro. Like,
Awesome. I agree.
Yeah.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks for bearing with us.
Peace
Thanks
out.
for bearing with us through all the.
Yeah. Thanks for everyone for putting up with that errors before.
Yeah, that was my bad, by the way. Okay, then.
All good.
Peace.
Cheers. Bye.